together with, or is it just
Uh,
like for pubs?
yeah, but like at the moment, there's one group that I kind of established now as position four, but there's like been on and off like bunch of five stacks, including me, where I have like been kind of as a well, it's I can't say that I have been a team member in all of those, like, but it's basically been like half a team member. So
Mm-hmm.
I've got a bunch of experience in playing games that are in captain's mode. Yep.
And but you're the captain, so you are supposed to draft and stuff in those half team.
Uh, no, I haven't been a captain in any of those teams.
Oh, I see. So you are like fresh off and just like because I saw that you had a team and you would look for some kind of general guidance because that's what my advice was basically for. Because if you like drafting in itself is more about your players, I think, than about the heroes you pick and stuff. Because you can at least at our MMR, to be honest,
Yeah.
because you know that we are not that great. You know, like 4K
Yeah.
is not bad, but not as professional as it could be. So we can't just say that we can play every hero perfectly. It's just more about what your team can play and work around that. Like my method for captaining was basically like you can have basically two ways. You know, you can decentralize the whole thing and say that everybody has a say in the draft, and you just try to play it like a pub, or you can have a despotic, you know, like monarchy-like situation where you have the captain and he makes most of the calls and stuff. And my method was the later one, so the despotic one, you know, where I just force stuff onto my teammates and they are fine with it. I take all the blame if we fail and stuff like that. And
Yep.
my point is that generally speaking, if you just have random players to play together with, the general guideline is that in drafting you like you probably read these somewhere. Like this is not new thing I'm going to say, but you want to not share your cores at the first couple of picks. So your mid and your carry and your offlane, you want to take those
Yeah.
picks to the later part because that generally outlines your whole strategy. And you want to start with picking supports and stuff.
Yeah, but you shouldn't pick the two supports like at the start or consecutively, if I understand.
Depends. Like this is the problem, you know. Like if you had a team, you were like stable somewhat, you know, and you had a general idea that you want to keep playing together and stuff. It would be easier for me to tell you things because it depends on the. If you don't have a stable team that you can work with, and it just depends on the meta because you are just going to pick meta. You don't have if you have a stable team. What we did was that we came up with one or two drafting strategies that only focused on our team, which were mostly focused on being aggressive, like draw strategy. You know, I'm pretty sure you know about it, but.
Yep.
Draw strategy with Phoenix is really good, for example, because the biggest problem with, for example, draw strategy is that it's if they can fight into draw and fuck draw, the whole shit just falls apart. And they can fuck your lane, the whole shit just falls apart. So we took draw ranger. The standard draft was first pick Phoenix, ban out Silencer and Broodmother because Broodmother just wrecks every lane with that matchup. And the first ban, for example, for us, Silencer is not that big of a deal, but we really hated playing against Silencer. So this is where I'm talking about, you know, stability.
Yeah, I get it.
So yeah, like if you are starting out as a team, you don't just like how to say it, yeah. Like you can ban out like okay, that was Leshrac who was really fucking OP at the time. You could ban out Leshrac and it's fine, you know, that's a good ban. But if you know more about your own players, it's better to ban out a hero you all agree you hate playing against, for example.
Yeah.
So yeah. And draw strategy, and we just play that strategy for a lot of time. Like it started out, the draft was different, but it ended up being Phoenix, draw, Shadow Demon, Dazzle, and a middle. Middle usually was TA or Medusa or Invoker or something ranged. It depended on the enemy mid lane. That was always our last pick. So that was the general thing about that. And the good thing, for example, about draw strategy is that you get pretty good timings of, you just, you want to get Mechanism up on Phoenix, and then with Mechanism you push down all the tier 1s, you do Roshan, you force the whole map out, and you just shut them into their own map. So yeah, so in general, if you want to be good at drafting, first you should focus on your own team. If you want to build it up in a way, always first look at the lanes. The lanes are the smallest building block of Dota, If you lose all of the lanes, it's very hard to win a game from that. No matter how synergetic, how good your team draft is, it's like, it's not going to work. It's just tested experience. So the first thing always is the lanes. About lanes, I don't know if you like what do you prefer as a team, but for example, we really liked aggressive tri-lanes. That's why we did Shadow Demon Dazzle, because with an aggressive tri-lane, most people back when we played more did the standard safe lane, tri-lane, solo off lane, solo middle lane, and if you do an aggressive tri-lane, you can always check their support, so they cannot get away with greedy stuff like stacking their own jungle and stuff, because you can always just force, like Shadow Demon Dazzle for example is really strong if you think about it as a support combo, because you can just disrupt, heal bomb, and you have draw aura next to it. So disrupt, heal bomb is like half HP of most heroes level 1, and on top of that it's like they can kill anybody solo, it's very strong. It's and it just shuts down that side of the map. So your middle lane and your off lane, your solo safe lane is forced into solo most of the time. And then it just, again, about picks, and Draw Ranger, like, Draw Ranger helps win the other lanes as well because of the aura. So that's but as you can see, I'm just talking about the Draw Ranger strategy over and over again.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, it's a good, like, a very tangible example.
Yeah, it's
still relevant in this patch or the recent patches.
Yes, it's just, it's really hard for me to give you I don't know, just ask me questions. It's better that way, I think, so yeah, I told you that lanes are the most important. Always focus first on the lanes. So try to imagine where the heroes are going that they are picking and act accordingly. Always try to have an upper hand in that sense. So at least you can sack, say, one lane. You usually sack the off lane. If you do the standard tri-lane safe lane and solo off lane, you usually sack the off lane in a sense, and you get an off lane hero that can catch up from jungling or something like that later on. So it's not that big of a deal if you lose that lane. And the enemy is going to act accordingly, and then you want to use your supports to be able to secure both your middle lane and your safe lane. So that's why support picks are really important, and that's why if you pick the supports first, that's why a good combo is very good, because this is why Shadow Demon Dazzle is very good, because there are very few other support combos that in the early and mid game can really contest them. Yes, so okay, I don't know, just ask me some questions. I'm starting to run out of ideas right here now.
That was like good. I understand that that you were looking more for giving like advice to a team or like somebody who drafts for a specific team. I mean, I didn't think that it was that big of a deal, but anyway, if I would just like talk about how I would approach drafting in general. Well, of course, you have people and they have their own hero pools.
Yes.
But like aside from that, how I would go about drafting is that, well, I would say that I would kind of go for too much of like options, like keeping many options open in the draft. Like I would pick heroes who could like go so often is necessary, like say a Phoenix.
Yes, that's part of what I didn't tell you, but that's the reason behind Phoenix as well, because Phoenix is really versatile in that sense that you can either lane him as a support or off lane or solo against another hero. It's very good in a lot of matchups. So yes, you want your opponent guessing. That's a very good way to put it. So you want to pick like some yes. We can always switch around middle and safe lane. That's usually easy. If you're willing to go aggressive tri lane, you can switch around even off lane and the carry hero. You know, the physical carry, the standard one position. Yeah. So it's it depends entirely. Like this is my problem again, that I don't know if you have. If you don't have a team, it's better to do the standard stuff. But if you do the standard stuff, it's easier to predict. You know, like it's this kind of problem there, because everybody does the standard stuff. You know. But yes, sorry.
Yeah, no problem. What was on top of my head is that, like, I think that what has become even more common now is, or I just haven't been following, common is the strats that go for really strong early physical, early, but go for strong physical damage. And it used to be a lot about like a draw strat, pushing strat, but now I think it's more of a still pushing, but more of a team fight strat. And I'm kind of wondering, how do you like draft around that, so that for like most part, I think that you just want to like go for a really good synergy with the team, that you're not so worried about the enemy just like countering them with armor, because I think it's not as relevant as just going for more synergy. But how would you balance the different factors in drafting when it comes to going for a strategy that is a certain damage type?
Yes, it's very good to have options. This is the reason, for example, why Gyrocopter used to be a really high pick, because he both has pretty good magic damage and pretty high physical damage, given enough farm, which usually happens in a standard game, because safe lane usually doesn't get contested if you watch pro games that much as it does in, for example, in a pub.
Yeah, I watch quite a lot of programs.
So, yes, but the thing is that it depends. Like, if you sharpen your sword too much, you know, it becomes brittle. You know, it can be broken. But if you have a strategy that's you have practiced a lot of times, it's not as big of a factor. If you can just always force your own playstyle on the enemy team, it's good. That's why, for example, against draw strategy, what fucks you the most is, for example, an anti-mage if you don't pressure him enough. Because while you are taking towers, he's trading your towers, and they are just not going to fight into your 5, and they're just going to split around the map in 2 ways. Like, there's a point where you can try to help these weaknesses in your draft. But it's more of a question of, do you really want to have these weaknesses or not? Like, as you said, physical damage could be countered by armor. Like, for example, you could keep picking Dazzle every game against the physical pushing lineup, but if you deny them that pick, then they can't pick Dazzle, for example. So it's hard to talk about drafting in this sense, you know, in just general terms, because it's a lot about specific stuff. And
So it's you try to compensate for the potential very high complexity with the comfort zones of
exactly. That's the easiest way to deal with this, but there are a lot of factors, you know, yeah, this is what I'm comfortable with, and this is why I'm telling you this. So this is probably not the best way to approach it, you know. So I have to take that into consideration. But as I said, laning is always the most important part, in my mind at least. After that, you take into account synergies of your own team, and then you start to think about how can I fuck the other team, you know, like. Then you start to think about what their draft is, what is their draft's objective, and how can you maybe put a little thing into that. So if you have to hierarchically order that, you know, into like Gödel numbers, like that's actually, I don't want to say shit, but if you want to number that in a sense that what is the most important thing, that's how I would go about it.
Alright.
So yeah. I don't know.
That's very sensible. I mean, I think how would I put it? Like you kind of make it sound like you're not giving very good advice, but like you know, that's all. It's making sense. It's making good sense.
The biggest problem, to be perfectly honest with you, in Team Dota is the same problem as in pubs. Like ego always comes first, and sometimes like I've been in a lot of teams, and my last team is the only one that's been stable for like a year, but now we have other problems because one of our player had his house burglared and he doesn't have a computer anymore, so that's kind of a bummer there. But the problems before in my other teams were mostly about ego, you know. Somebody always just feels like that they are being sacked too much, you know, like the offlane just cries that he always has to go offlane, and the other guy just cries because he has to support. So it's mostly about just like, you know, like primitive stuff. That's what usually fucks up teams before they can get to a point where they have a working something, you know. It's just people are not willing to put in the time and effort to bear each other's presence for long enough time for something great to come out of it, you know. So it's I don't know if that is like drafting advice or not, but
that's relevant definitely. I've seen some interviews of pro captains. And they have discussed like what's, you know, the issues about drafting, and that has come out in one form or another, definitely.
So yeah, I don't know. Just shoot me some questions, to be honest, because
I'll like as a quick mention, like as I've been coaching, you know, the one frustrating thing is kind of that I have to come up with like what the coach wants. Like that's you know. It's a problem, but right now I'm in the same situations as the people who I was coaching. But so yeah, I mean, if I was to go now about drafting for, let's say, just like any kind of new team, and I'm still kind of calibrating the strengths and weaknesses of each player, then obviously I'm not so aware of the hero pools of each player. So it's gonna be difficult when I try to like draft things when I can't be constantly asking everybody, can they play this or this hero? Then they go, well, it's not my best, and then I go like what do you mean it's not your best? Do you mean that it's like average for you for your carries, or is it like
we have like this for us we have a Facebook group, and we did a questionnaire in the beginning, you know, like we just asked that who plays what good, and we just did that, and that's one way to circumvent that problem. The other way is that, you know, pubs usually follow the competitive meta. So, you know, like right now Beastmaster is it's actually a big in pubs, which is surprising for me, because, you know, nobody played Beastmaster for like 2 years ago. Only I did, and I was like, why nobody is playing Business? It's a good hero. And it's like, if you draft according to, if you copy the meta of competitive games, you are generally going to have a draft that people can play, because it's basically what they play in pubs as well, except with less organization, you know. So that's a way to, you know, circumvent that kind of problem again. So that's my thoughts about it.
Yeah.
If
yeah, that's good. I'm trying to think of what's the most relevant thing right now to think about. The problem is that I was drafting quite a bit at one point in basically only in scrub faced tournaments, and then sometimes in normal, not ranked captain's modes, and I was basically just using DotaPicker.com.
No, don't use this shit.
Yeah,
like how long have you been playing Dota, by the way?
For would it be 6-7 years? But
no, that's more than me actually. I only been playing like 4 years, so yeah.
Yeah, but in terms of matches, I've played about 4,000 actually.
That's half as many as mine. So it's it's just you should have like a general idea about how things work in relation to each other, right? So you have a general idea about all the lane matchups. So you are not going to send, for example, an X against the Viper, like exactly. So you know what I mean. So it's don't use DotaPicker. I think it's it's a lot of time to use it, you know. It's if you are trying to do it real time, it's I don't think that's realistic, but maybe I'm just too slow for that.
Well, I mean, I wasn't exactly saying that like it's something that I would do now, but so like my idea of drafting basically came from like I was rotating from between the general the basic version, and then you could switch to like more early game, mid game, late game, and I was using that to get an idea of like also not just like blindly picking stuff, but I would like think of what I want to pick now, and then I would compare with how DotaPicker is rating it, and so that's how I tried to get an idea of how
don't try to rate your drafts with DotaPicker. The best way to rate your drafts is to actually try them out, you know, like just how in science the way you test out this theory is by like it's you know, it's the same kind of, if you use DotaPicker, it's like testing a theory with a theory. It's just you know, it kind of feels like, I don't know, maybe in mathematics it works, you know. In mathematics it might work to test out a theory with a theory, but in general, it doesn't really work that well. You can never know. It's like you know, some guy might have a bad fucking day, and you say you test out draw strategy for one game, and he has a bad day, and then you lose because of him, even though you don't want to say it out loud that you lost because of him, but maybe you did lose because of him, because he had a bad day, and then after that you are never going to try this strategy again. No, you have to have a sample size of strategies to see how well they fare against in different situations. I think.
One trade-off. It's not a zero-sum game at all, but you have these kinds of safe lane pickups mostly where the supports that you pick are like you're picking so that they're suited for zoning the enemy offlaner, which goes hand in hand with the potential of killing him, and then ganking the middle lane. So when I'm drafting, or if I'm thinking about drafting theoretically, then I'm not really sure how do I go about like support heroes who are better at zoning the enemy offlaner, as opposed to like being better at securing a good mid lane for.
I don't really see the difference, to be perfectly honest with you. Like the standard setup for a tri lane is 2 range heroes and 1 melee hero. And that's the standard setup. That's when you get equal amounts of trading. When you can get equal amounts of not last hits, but harassment traded between the heroes. So, yes, but if you like, the safe lane support is not just about zoning out their flaner. Again, that's the priority thing there. The first thing you want to do is zone out their flaner. Sometimes you can't zone out their flaner because it would mean that you have to leech too much EXP from your carrion, since they changed the map and you can pull on both sides. You can pull even now on Radiant. The offlaner can always fuck your lane, and if that doesn't work, he can just go back behind his ancients and farm that stack. So it's the zoning out part of the offlaner. I don't think it's that much important anymore. It's more about like it again depends on your draft. If you have a Tinker middle, for example, you want to have a support who is just like staying in the fucking jungle and keep fucking stacking over and over again. For example, Lich. Like, Lich is a very good hero that's like a dedicated stacker, basically, because all he does is you just go middle with Tinker, you just deny his creep all the time, and you keep stacking camps for him. And that's his whole job, and then you have a dual lane on bottom. But you can only get away that if they don't aggressive tri-lane against you, for example, because if they aggressive tri-lane against that, your bottom lane is fucked. So it's so in general, if you're playing the standard meta, the supports, how should I say it? The supports should rather be, I don't know, should rather be able to kill the middle lane. But even what's more important is that if you both play the standard matchup, so both of you have, it's more about how well those supports complement your draft. This is when the picking stuff can be switched up, when you don't really pick supports first, for example, because if you are expecting to play a standard game against, and you are playing a standard game and the opponent is playing a standard game, the game is much more passive. So both of you will be on your own side of the map most of the time, and it's more important to draft the support that's good late game and good mid game, you know, not exactly the early game harassment out stuff, you know.
I mean, also what comes to mind is that when you pick a supporter who's good at killing the middle lane or ganking a lane in general, then it feels like it's quite a big of a deal that any time that the supports are not visible for the enemy on the map, then there's the threat for everybody else on the map, and particularly mid, that they're gonna get ganked. So they have to play more carefully, and they will more often back away.
If you really think about it, the middle lane is not that dangerous. Even if the supports are missing, the middle lane is pretty short. You know, it's if you die in middle lane to a gank, you probably it's, how could I say it? Like, if middle lane is a lot about creep balance. If you push over, you're forced into farming on the opponent's side of the river, you are in a dangerous position. So that's a positioning thing, and that's the, like, if you are ganking with the support, you generally smoke up and wait out the time for him to be in a position to be ganked. And that's like the only, it's kind of like the opponent mid has to make a mistake for you to be able to gank. And if he doesn't make that mistake, it's not that easy to gank unless you have level 6, for example, on a Beastmaster. Like, that's and that's more often then the offlane is rotating middle to gank the middle lane. That's what you see most of the time in professional games. I think that the offlane is rotating more to gank the middle once he has like Chronosphere or something, because it's much more of a guaranteed kill. Than with supports rotating earlier into the game.
The thing that kind of triggered me, not the right word, the thing that kind of the thing that made me like go over the limit of from like I'm not gonna learn drafting right now to I want to learn drafting, is that even if I am in a team and I join a new one or whatever, and if I won't be drafting there, then still I think it will help me a lot when I understand more what's going through the captain's head. Because, for instance, our current captain, I think that he's good. My current team's captain, but like he like makes these judgment calls. Like in the last pick, he just like decides, all right, instead we're going aggro try, or we're going to actually have this one support to harass the enemy middle laner for the start, and then I'm really caught off guard.
Yes, because
by this. Yeah,
I understand you completely. It's the same thing that happens with my team. They don't sometimes understand why I'm suddenly making changes at the last moment. That is when you start to get the complete picture of what is the enemy team doing, you know. Like the last couple of picks is when it's like a puzzle, you know, like one piece after another piece after another piece, and then you have the whole picture, and then you are like, I didn't really think it through when I was in the process of drafting this. So now I'm going to fix that problem by making a change in the lanes, or depending on the picks. So that's most of the. That's why it's hard to be, if you are not drafting. It's hard to be aware, or if your captain is going to make a last minute change or not. It's because it's his own inside process of thinking. You know? Unless we can like figure out a way to have telepathy and stuff, but then it's
or you just can talk really fast and the other people can understand really fast what you're drafting about. All right, so what about when you like quite often you people like I think tend to draft around like several heroes. So in your case it would be drafting around Drow. So when that one hero gets banned, like how have you like taken precautions in your picking like beforehand that it might get banned if you have, and how do you adapt when that ban comes through from the enemy and you have to just like pick some other hero, and then doesn't that kind of mess up your thinking so far when?
Yes, sorry for interrupting you, but
no problem.
The pick order is very important. Drow Ranger in our draft is like the 4th pick. So we usually go Phoenix first pick, which is all around a fine pick in my opinion. Regarding what you will do afterwards, he can go support, he can go middle, maybe depends, and he can go off.
The W is really bad, like for the enemy mid laner oftentimes.
Yes, Damn. And then you pick a support, Basil, and the opponent, that's anything, you know, anything can happen from that on. And after that, you either pick Drow or you pick Shadowing. So the enemy has 2 bans to ban out the Drow Ranger. Now, who in the right mind is going to expect, for example, to ban out the Drow Ranger? It's different in pro games, like not Lone Druid, but Admiral Bulldog was famous for this, you know, that he only had like Lone Druid and Nature's Prophet, and he was very easy to get fucked in draft because of his low competitive level hero pool. But if you that's a perspective of pro play, you know. It's not how semi-competitive B, C, D, E, F, G tier teams work. If you play in a LAN, you don't know much about your opponent. Like I did homework on my opponents when we were playing LANs. I was always watching what they were doing and stuff, but it's still not as easy to establish a pattern of.
Yeah, you don't have so many respect bans.
Yes, exactly. So it's I don't think that's that much of a problem, because you generally want to open up your drafts in a way that it can branch out into many ways, and then you close it down in the end. So it's like reverse tree, you know, like the tree comes from the root and it branches out. The draft is different. It's it's the same. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm just like confusing the other two.
No, that sounds good. Like I'm pretty good at confusing myself and other people when I'm like explaining things. Although I've gotten better at it, but I don't think that the way that you're explaining stuff is confusing at all.
Okay, fine. Okay. So
Oh.
you just get my point. That's what matters for me.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So like so far, basically, the winning lanes is like the priority.
Yes.
So and of course the priority is going to become somewhat lower as the draft progresses because wow, what was I saying?
Don't try to connect those two. Like winning lanes is a separate compartment from how your draft goes in a sense. So it's like different levels of looking at the game. The priority is always to win the lane first. So your draft should be always be focused on trying to have the best matchups possible for every lane. That's the first priority, and that's the closing down part is, I mean that it's kind of the same puzzle stuff, you know, like if you want to start out your draft in a way that it can be anything, you know. So you don't want to pick a hero that's like, you don't want to pick, for example, Broodmother first, you know. You don't want to pick what's very telling as well. You don't want to pick an Ursa first and then a Wraith King, you know. Like you don't want to and then go solo and then go level 1 Roshan, you know what I mean? Like that's what I meant by starting off the draft so that it can branch off into many different things. That's if that helps.
Yep. And you know, first from my part, because I didn't really prepare many questions on this, because really I am kind of in a beginner stage, because like when I look at any game, whether it's my game or a pro game or a game of somebody who I'm coaching, I'm like good at spotting the synergies and counters how they went on the game. And when a lane setup is such, I can tell that it was pretty expected that this lane was going to lose, or that this guy was going to go AFK Iron Taloning, and these kinds of implications. But when it comes to like Captain's Mode drafting, I haven't like tried it properly in a while, but I'm just like kind of bad at prioritizing things. So you know, that's the key word for me, is to be able to prioritize things. And I think you have like made good points on that, like definitely so far. Are there other kind of like mistakes like that come to mind when it comes to drafting and beginner drafting in general? Like, what do people like go wrong at?
The biggest mistake, I think, is that not having a plan beforehand. That's what I think.
That's what all the captains who I play with like basically do. Like there's no like plan for whether it's gonna be aggro or push or late game, and they just like pick heroes.
I mean it in a sense that you know, there's all this kind of strategies like split push, 5-man push. You know, I mean that you want to have a general idea about what your team prefers to play, what you're good at playing, and what drafts are good in that archetype, you know. That's what I mean by having the plan. Well, it's, you know, it's kind of like how PUBs, you know, like the problem really is that we are trying to make teams out of PUB players, and in PUBs there's generally not much coordination. Even the higher you go up, even then there's not that much. Like there's no constant. You are not constantly on voice, not talking. You are not playing together for a lot of time. So it's kind of the same thing.
You know? At 2K people expect that 4K is gonna be Disneyland, and everybody's gonna be like great friends and communicate in the matches, and then 4K players think that it's going to be Disneyland at 7K, and then when you look at the matches, there's actually surprisingly little communication going on.
Yes, exactly. The trench never ends.
Of course, the higher that you go in the brackets, the more the players have a kind of intuitive feel of what each other's heroes are capable But you still see lots of these things like a support like wants to do this one simple thing to boost somebody else in some way, and then they just like get ignored even when they say it in text and voice chat. But yeah, that's kind of getting off the point here.
I was hoping that you'd have to be perfectly honest with you, I was hoping that you were like a team captain and in like a new team. So in my mind, I was hoping that I could help you in that way. That's how I built up this conversation.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have comparison points for getting coached in captain's mode, drafting. But I mean, I still think it's like been as useful as it could be for my level.
Another thing is that I don't think I touched on this subject, but you have to in captain's mode you want to have your item decisions and complement your draft. So for example, Phoenix, you buy Mechanism so you can push. It's very easy, you know, if you think about it. So you just kind of want to like what is realistic. If you want the Mechanism, you generally want it by 10 to 15 minute mark. So you can and you want to have a hero who, if gets fucked, for example, again, do it regardless in either a good team fight or just from catching up from jungle. So it's like the small things, you know. You can't really like. It's another thing. Like if the enemy team has a Mechanism and you don't have a Mechanism, and then you fight into the enemy team who has a Mechanism and you don't have a Mechanism,
most likely will lose.
Yes, you most likely will lose. Like this thing doesn't come up in pubs. Like nobody fucking buys Mechanism in pubs, and even if you do, it's pointless because it's mostly about, well, this guy was out of position, so he died. He doesn't have vibe. I guess we win now after 2 hours.
That's actually one mistake that I tend to see often in like this lower tier drafting is how like people forget about the fact that people forget about the implications of Mechanism. Of course, it's important, as you said, and then people like when you pick a hero who tends to be much stronger with Tranquil Boots and the effect that it gives him, like in the early game, such as Lion or Lich, then you often see these people like go for the Tranquil Boots, and then they just like come to realize that, hey, who's going to be carrying the mech? And then they realize that they have no source of proper mana for the team.
Exactly.
And then how you're going to be using that Mechanism effectively. So you have that, but then you have also all these other annoying things that go on with like teams who have been playing with, because I want to like really talk things through on a level that makes the matches much easier to coordinate, because you have so much of this discrepancy in like using the courier. Like people don't understand.
It's priority. Always mid lane is priority. If mid lane takes the courier, don't take the courier. It's it should be common knowledge, you know.
But it's when the courier is at base, you know, that's the spot when you have to realize that like you put your items in before the mid laner uses it, and then you go take your Smoke of Deceit or new ward or whatever. And when like things like these, like when they add up, it makes it so much harder to concentrate or keep a train of thought on what's going on in the match.
This is why I'm telling you that you need stability first. So you need a stable team first, because this is like small shit, you know. This is like this is shit that shouldn't cost the game.
To concentrate on,
this is shit that shouldn't cost the game, you know. Like this is the shit I usually get mad about if you are playing, because even if you play together, sometimes, you know, the primal fucking pop spirit just takes over you. It just goes into total fucking chaos, and it's the same shit I get mad about. It's just, you need to. Everybody needs to be on the same page about stuff. That's like, if you go into team fight mid game, everybody should go into the team fight. It doesn't matter if you lose the team fight. If you lose the team fight, you learn something. You get information. You know that you lost the team fight because you suck at something. You know, it's it's, I don't know, it's just, but people generally just tend to be like all emotional about this and just like, oh, that, oh, we lost the team fight, we're just going to lose the game now, and it just adds up, and then they just lose the game for themselves, you know, like how you, I don't know, you predict that you will commit suicide, and then you commit suicide because you keep thinking the same thought over and over again, you know, like in an obsessive way. So
yeah. So it sounds like that one should, especially with a new team, like start off the drafting like really small. You want to make sure that even if you don't have the best synergies and counters with the enemy team, you want to make sure that like the heroes that you draft and the lanes that you draft are going to be clear enough that you can actually spot out the things that go wrong.
Yes.
So that there aren't so many small things that like go wrong and distract you from you know, the things that you can concretely improve upon. So
yes, but this is again, in my mind at least, this is more of an ego problem again, you know, like this is more of a personal player perspective problem than a drafting problem. So at least in my mind, but I can be completely wrong about this. But yes, exactly.
Yeah. How's your team like? So when did you form your latest team?
Around a year ago, I think. We've been playing together before that, so it was like Yashuk is. I've been playing together with Yashuk since StarCraft 2, but StarCraft 2 kind of died off, you know, after like a year after the release. So
you like micro heavy heroes?
Oh well, he plays middle lane. You know, you just give him middle lane. He plays TA and shit like that most of the time. TA, Queen of Pain. His Amber Spirit, I keep nagging him about, so I'm like, it's, you know, it's feedback stuff, you know, it's... then he got Yuzu, who went to the same university. He was the second support next to me, and then we had on carry Pityo, who was another guy I've been playing together for a long time with. And we had Artemis and offlane, another guy who I've been playing. So it's like, you know, like this team that is somewhat stable, was somewhat stable before Artemis got his house burglared. Was, you know, it's not like we just got together and, okay, let's make a team, and we didn't have previous experience. It was a long time coming, kind of, you know. So it's, the teams I've been on that were like... you know, that had the point in that let's make a competitive team. Just the longest they were together is like 2 months tops, and then it just fell apart because of some shit. Maybe it was me being retarded. I can't remember, or my mind is just like not letting that information come surface. You know, you have to still keep a straight face about it and stuff. You know, so they just fell apart. You know. And it was mostly about some personal issues. That's the biggest enemy if you're trying to make a team work, I think.
But I get now that it's definitely a big part, probably to know your teammates and their play styles. Not only because I played with like stacks and team kind of things who don't tend to like get all these like basics right, and then you have also lots of problems in the drafting phase. Like you have to like keep asking people like whether they can play something because we don't have enough experience together, and the kind of vicious circle that arises that I have noticed that I try to avoid is that like you lose games because the drafting goes wrong, and the drafting has gone wrong for the reason that you're like not drafting around the people, you're drafting around the meta, or you're drafting around the counters and synergies too much. So, you know, I would like feel like being a captain for a team once I get like good at captain, drafter for the team once I get good at it. But I'm not sure how to get experience at being good at it, because I can't just like always have these people like being surrendered to my poor drafting, you know, until I get good. So
it's yeah, I see what your problem, that you finish university, you don't have experience, and you need experience for a job. Yes, it's
Yeah, exactly. So thank you for reminding of me my couple of years into the future.
Yeah, I'm still not ready to finish university, so I did the opposite part. I just delayed my university, like yes.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It kind of falls into place eventually. Like how I started out drafting was that I was like the guy that I'm going to say taught me a lot about drafting is going to be Budi. And we had a team back like 2 years ago, which I really enjoyed. The first iteration of it, but we never had a fifth player, so there was that problem in that team, that we never had a fifth player. It was only four, and at first you are not drafting. You just like in the draft, and you see how your captain drafts, and you try to understand why he drafts it with, and you ask him questions, you nag him, and then you eventually get to the point where he gets so mad at you that he lets you draft, you know, and then you draft, and then it's shit as fuck, but it's a start, you know. You always have to start somewhere, and then it just eventually you just get to draft more and more, and then
yeah, I almost feel like I should start like drafting in Faceit again for starters. And yeah, you could give me some feedback on the general drafting, like just by looking at the.
It would be good if you could give me some examples of your drafting. Actually, that would be pretty nice.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. What I would do basically, I think, is that I will well, two possibilities. Either I give you the replays. Probably. Wait, can you share the practice replays?
I have like the lands we played. I have them downloaded. So
okay. Yeah.
I think you can. I think you can.
Yeah. Well, I would download it so that you can look at the order of the drafting, and then I have just like written out how the drafting progressed and what was my thought process.
So exactly. Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
right,
then
nice.
we can then, I don't know, like repeat this process again once you have the shit figured out.
Yep. So yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Thanks for your time.
You don't mind me putting this on YouTube? I think I asked you on.
Yeah. You already asked. Not at all. Hopefully it suits your purposes, even though it wasn't what you exactly expected.
It's fine. It's it's good.
Yeah. All right.
Well, take care, dude. I don't know.
Yeah, same to you. Catch you later. I'll send you all the replays soonish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
User disconnected.